Hey everybody, Rich here, South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. So I decided to do a video today on, hey, it's time to get your swarm traps prepped and do a quick recap of a few tips. And I thought I'd bring in a couple of my swarm traps and show how to, get them spruced up. But I'm almost a little too late.
It's January 12th.
It's January 12th and I've got heavy scout activity on this bucket. And they're checking out the outside of it. They're checking out the inside of it. They're all over it. Hey, here we are back again. So like I said, but it'd be a good idea to go ahead and do a quick video on getting your swarm traps freshened up and ready to go. And when I went out I was going to grab a couple of buckets, and I was going to point out that one possible way of making a swarm trap would be to put two buckets together with bottoms cut out to make them longer, because the research all shows that the ideal swarm trap is about 20 gallons. Obviously, a 5-gallon bucket isn't 20 gallons or anywhere near it. 20 gallons is actually a 10 frame deep plus a 10 frame medium. All right. Who wants to handle a swarm trap like that? Now, that is for catching early spring prime swarms in the parts of the country that have real bees. Our Scutellata mutts never build up that far. They swarm with much smaller numbers, and a 5-gallon trap made from a 5-gallon bucket is just fine. Or two 5-frame nukes quickly cobbled together and hung up with a bottom on it is wonderful, if you want to go that route. And I have some ideas on that I'll share in another video. But what I wanted to do today is just to touch on some of the high points of getting your traps ready for spring. So sometimes I've gotten questions about sludge versus propolis tincture. Okay, this is sludge. There is, even after just a couple of minutes, there's a layer forming on the bottom after you shook it up. All right. This is sludge. This is propolis tincture with all kinds of, I'm going to put some of this into a clean jar because obviously I've been using this one for this purpose for a long time. Okay. That's what the sludge looks like. This is what I like to paint my traps with. And this is fairly clear sludge. I like to stick it in the bottom there, pull up the nasty stuff even, all right, and swab that around.
So to be clear,
just to
the
freshen it
crap
up.
that you see on the inside is
Past
sludge from
years.
prior years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just sprucing it up a little bit here.
So you're just renewing the sludgy smell.
Yeah. There's well, it's I'm freshening up the propolis is what I'm doing here. Okay. I don't know if you can see or can't see. It's a pain doing it when you're filming. So
will you go over the entire insides, or are you just going to do?
Well, I'm just kind of hitting the high points there.
What they call a lick and a promise.
That's pretty much a lick and a promise.
Yeah.
That's really the point here is going to be, okay, here's what some of you may not know or realize. So here we have clear tincture. That is, it has been alcohol and all this stuff, and when it all settles down and you have this clear stuff, you pour it off, and you get clear tincture. Yeah, throw some of that out, and I'll put a bit of the clear tincture into the glass because I noticed that this is a fairly dark batch, but you notice how it's crystal clear. Okay. Now, look how grungy this spray head is. This spray head has been in this bottle that has propolis tincture in it for well over a year. The spray head is not clogged. It works just fine. This is something I do more with my equipment. All of my supers and frames and all this sort of thing. It's a whole lot faster. What a mess I made. It's a whole lot faster than what I was just doing with a brush. If you've made yourself clear tincture, all right, I have just coated that whole thing with a layer of propolis. That alcohol is going to evaporate in just a couple of minutes. Wonderful.
Oops.
Oops. There goes a week's work. All right. So, but at any rate, freshen your traps up if
You
you
might
have.
want to put the cover on that bottle. Just saying.
To just freshen your traps up, little propolis tincture if you have it, little sludge works great. I'm going to show you my preferred method of baiting the trap. You take a big wide mouth straw. Okay, you can pick those up at Walmart, or you can just get them off of your next slurry, whichever. Cut it at an angle like this, about that long. Grab some cotton. Of course, if you do this when you don't have propolis on your hands, it's a little less of a mess, but all right. Put some lemongrass oil in there. Brand doesn't matter, just so long as it's lemongrass oil. Squish it around real good. Now that your hands have some of it on it, well, you can just go ahead and wipe your hands off right there. But what you want to do, this isn't saturated yet. There we go. That'll probably saturate it. What I do is I put it in here. Because if you just put the piece of cotton in there, as I've heard people say before,
it dries out.
It dries out pretty quickly. Like this, it stays fresh for a long time. And again, since I'm using bucket traps, the same holds true with any wood. Push pin somewhere up here. Ouch, I just stabbed myself. There we go.
You're batting 1,000 today.
I'm just doing it all. I'm just in a rush, that's all. So, again, for my traps, I always put this wooden guides in here to help them up. Certainly doesn't hurt to go ahead and put a little propolis there. And that trap's good to go. But as you saw just a minute ago, it's January the 12th, folks. January the 12th. And there's scout activity there. Now, that scout activity most likely comes from a colony that lives inside a birdhouse the next street over. A birdhouse that has a volume of less than this bucket. So they throw swarms at crazy times. More than likely, this first one I'll pick up will be from that bucket, but it's always been pretty good swarms, so I don't mind. Again, scutellata, smaller swarms, they're attracted to this. Bigger swarms will check out this trap and ignore it. If you want to get prime swarms from somebody that you know requeens on a regular basis, then you need a bigger trap. Okay? And I would not ever say use a 10 frame deep. That's just very awkward unless you got an old deer stand somewhere.
But to be fair, if you do have a box with frames in it, you don't have to do a cutout when you move the swarm from the swarm trap into the hive boxes.
Absolutely.
Which is what we'll have to do when a swarm moves in here.
What I tend on doing is taking 3 of my many medium nukes and tacking them together, putting the bottom on one, and hanging it up in the avocado tree to see if it interests a larger swarm than the little swarms that usually get attracted over there. But as it happened, there was some things in position that gave me some ideas this afternoon, and I'm going to pursue them when I come back from my vacation. But I'm leaving on vacation here in a couple of days, and I will see you folks towards the end of the month. This has been Rich, South Florida Beekeeping with Rich. Be sure to like and subscribe and get those traps out now.